to die as us. He came to take what we deserved so that we could get what he deserved. But I wanted to find every phrase, every statement that I could find, and I don't have the list with me, but there's a number of things that are listed. We know that he came to destroy the works of the evil one. We know that he came to make an open display of the enemy. We know that he came to initiate, if not the existence, the realization, the experienceability of the kingdom here and now. He came for so many reasons, and it's a really impressive list, but it wasn't too long ago I finally realized everything that was on my list, every point that for why he came, his death, his resurrection, all of this, all of them were subpoints of one primary point. Jesus came to reveal the Father. Nothing before him revealed the Father. He came to an orphaned planet to reveal the Father because there was nothing previous, nothing in the law, nothing about Moses and David and Elijah and all of these wonderful, wonderful, great leaders in their season. There was nothing about their life that adequately revealed the Father. And it was the greatest missing element in all of mankind, was that realization of what a father's like. Everything Jesus did, we know the secret to his life, if you want to call it that, the formula to his success, was that he only said what he heard his Father say. He only did what he saw his Father do. So there was this incredible connection between Jesus and his words, his actions, his affection, his touch, his miracles, everything. It was all the Father working in and through him. In fact, he kind of summed it up at one point in John, and he said, listen, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. I and the Father are one. And the terminology that he uses to describe this, that he and the Father are one, and then he takes it another notch. He says, it's better that I go, and I'm going to send you another Comforter. The word that he uses is, I'm going to send you one exactly the same as me. So here we have the Father being exactly represented by the Son, being exactly represented by the Holy Spirit. It was so vital that this planet would have an opportunity to see something that had never been seen before. And that was that there was a Father. I'm fascinated by various groups and various people's interpretation of the gospel, interpretation of what it means to follow Christ. I despise so much self-centered, selfish gospel. I just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that people do so many stupid things and blame it on God, you know. Just saying, well, grace allows me to do it, and it's just dumb. But sometimes the Lord will actually hide the truth that we need in the doctrine that we're most afraid of, in the revelation that we're most afraid of. You see, when the Lord reveals stuff to us, he's giving access to an encounter, to an experience. He doesn't reveal stuff to make us smarter. He's not that concerned about our intelligence. He's concerned about heart. He's concerned about what we perceive. He's concerned about what we've been able to taste of. The taste and see that the Lord is good. There's this invitation for continuous relationship and encounter. The tasteability of the kingdom is very, very present. And that was his concern. So every time he gives us a revelation, it'd almost be like standing on a hill on a piece of property. You've just inherited, say, 10,000 acres. And the person who's describing to you what you just inherited is saying, and you see that mountain over there? Your property runs all the way to the top of that mountain. And it goes all the way to that river over there and all the way to that wall of trees over there. That's your land. Many people stand on top of that mountain and just confess all day long what belongs to them, but they don't explore any of it. See, faith explores what revelation reveals. Faith is like getting on the four-wheeler and just start finding out what it looks like, what the water tastes like, what the trees are like, how tall they are. It's the exploration. It's just faith just explores. It explores what the Holy Spirit reveals to us in revelation. The word revelation actually means to lift the veil. So when the Holy Spirit reveals something, he didn't create it. He just unveiled it. He just made it seeable. And so the Lord then does this to bring us into experience. Revelation is supposed to bring us into a divine encounter. When the Lord reveals truth to us and it doesn't take us to the person of Jesus, then it only makes us more equipped to argue with people who disagree. It's a huge difference from operating out of the head than out of the heart. A lot of people present the gospel from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Intellectual concepts only, not the wooing of the heart that takes place when a father is revealed. What do you think it was like when Bartimaeus was crying out in the back of the crowd? He wanted to see. He says, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And he's crying out. He's making just a huge scene. People are trying to quiet him down. And Jesus takes note, calls him to the front. He leaves his beggar's garment behind. He comes up to Jesus. Jesus asks him what he wants. He wants to see. Jesus heals him. Do you know what Jesus was doing there? He was revealing the Father. Because there's not a dad in this room that wouldn't do that for the child if they had the ability. You remember when the woman was caught in adultery and thrown at Jesus' feet? And Jesus started to write in the sand. I've heard some great sermons on what he wrote, but the Bible doesn't tell us, so. But they were all good. I believed whatever one I heard last. So he's writing in the sand, and whatever he wrote so shifted the atmosphere that it went from guys with rocks that were wanting to kill the lady. She knew she was about to die. And Jesus writes in the sand, suddenly there's a shift in atmosphere where grace impregnates the air so much that all lawgivers had to flee. And Jesus is now left alone. Now look at the image. Alone with an adulterous woman. There are people standing off at a distance, but he is left alone. What's that moment? It's a father-daughter moment. There's not a dad in the room that could care less what the crowd thought when you have a chance to restore a daughter. It's not about image. It's not about reputation. It's about revealing the most significant revelation available to humanity. And that is, God is a perfect Father. He's better than we think, so we have to change the way we think. We have to shift how we think, how we process, how we review issues and things in our life. I grew up with a certain idea that got shifted and changed here in recent days. I want you to open your Bibles to John 14. We're going to read several verses, so just kind of get your gospel track shoes on. See how we do here. I grew up, I don't ever remember my parents ever teaching this, but somehow I picked it up in church somehow, that God is not interested in your wants, he's interested in your needs. And I know the reason for teaching that. The reason for teaching that is there's a lot of people that want a lot of stupid stuff, and just knock it off. And the best way to have you knock it off is just to tell you he's interested in your needs, not your wants. But that's not biblical. Jesus has a number of encounters with his disciples where he appeals to them to want something. There's a supernatural power to desire. Is there anybody in the room that has a sweet tooth? Is there anyone who has more than one? Yeah, I've got issues. We did a fast a while back, and extended fast, And I do good fasting in the sense that if I say I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to eat. I don't care how many days it's going to be, I won't eat. But I watch the Food Channel. Dare I say, I watch the Food Channel religiously because I'm planning the rest of my life. Because it feels like I may never eat again, and I'm trying to keep hope in front of me. And I do stupid stuff when we fast. And the last one, it was a long one. I bought 29 cookbooks. I don't cook. But Amazon.com, the one-click thing. You get on there. I get on there and I go, oh yeah, we need that. Click, and down at the bottom it'll have, people who bought that book also bought these. And I go, well, I can see why. We don't eat fried foods. I bought a deep fryer. I bought a deep fryer. You may not know this. This is good. Some of you men may be happy about this that I'm about to share with you. I actually joined a bacon club. There's such a thing as a bacon club. They send you monthly installments of an entire different food group called bacon. Do you know you only crave sweets because it exists? In other words, it's impossible to crave it if it doesn't exist. The very fact that you hunger for something testifies that what you hunger for is a reality. The disciples were arguing as to who was the greatest. Jesus never rebuked them for their desire for greatness. He just redefined it. Religion kills dreams. Religion controls and confines. Well, the gospel of the kingdom empowers, but it empowers unto purpose into Christ likeness. And there's a huge difference between the empowerment to become everything God's called us to be, to achieve and to step into realms that we previously thought impossible, actually invited by God to step into and live in these realms of impossibility. That really is the normal Christian life. And all of that is found through this man who is God called Jesus. And he came to reveal the Father because he wanted to rewrite the code of what people expected from life. And so when the disciples debated as to who was the greatest, he just brought a child into the group and let them do their arguing. And he finally pointed to the child and he said, this is greatness. There's something about we need things redefined because we have desires in us that are actually God-born. And oftentimes people try to kill the thing that God actually put in them instead of learn how to express it correctly. Many Christians crucify the resurrected man in the name of discipleship. That was a really good point, Bill. That was a really good point. The cross is central to the gospel. We know that. Dying to self, it's a big deal. There's just without the cross, there's no conversion. He took our place in death. But technically, the Christian life is the resurrection. It's the cross that gets you there. And many people come to the cross part, and then they just keep crawling up and down off the cross instead of realizing that there is supposed to be a manifestation of the resurrected presence and power of God that is manifest in the life of a believer, that is witnessed, evidenced, seen in the desires, the lifestyle, the pursuits, the gifts, the graces that rest upon that born-again believer. See, one thing I don't think the world has ever seen is to see a church that got what they wanted. That sounds awkward, so I'll explain it. It'll take me a while. Just give me some grace here. Do you know why God disciplines us? So that his blessings don't kill us. Let me put it another way. This sounds a little bit more heretical. Do you know why God disciplines us? So that you can have what you want. See, the Lord longs for co-laboring. He intentionally didn't create robots. He intentionally didn't create another host of angels. He created people in his image and then invited them into a relationship where their desires would actually have an effect on the unfolding of history. You know this statement, well, whatever happens, God is in control. Oh, really? We seriously need to redefine the sovereignty of God, because our present definition blames him for everything wrong that happens. I got 5 of you with me, and I'm encouraged. I want you to know, I get 5 or 6, I'm happy, I'm happy. It's whatever happens is mysteriously God's will. No, that's not true. God is not willing that any should perish, or is anyone perishing? Yes. Is it God's will? No. What's the deciding factor? You and me. You and me. We're the deciding factor. There's an effect that you and I have on the unfolding of the will of God. You guys all right? All right. One of my favorite stories is where Jesus takes a couple of his guys and goes to a wedding. And they ran out of wine. And Bishop Garlington likes to remind us they didn't run out of wine until Jesus and the disciples got there. But we'll leave that alone. That's not for me to judge. So Mary, the mother of Jesus, the one who is called highly favored, really has the attention of heaven on steroids. Comes to Jesus and says they're out of wine. And he says, what does that have to do with me? It's not my time. Now, where does Jesus get his information? From the Father. He only says what he hears his Father say. He only does what he sees his Father do. So we have every reason in the world to think that answer was in response to what he picked up from the Father. So Mary says they're out of wine. Jesus says, what does that have to do with me? This isn't the time. The time for what? To unveil Jesus, the miracle worker. So the highly favored one turns to the servants and says, just do whatever he says. And apparently Jesus looks back at the Father and in so many words says, apparently we have a change in plans. For many, that's an offensive way to describe the story because of the fixed nature of the will of God in people's minds. I would like to redefine it for you. His sovereignty includes your influence. He wrote it into a sovereign plan. He invited people to come into relationships so profoundly that what you dream and what you desire actually has an effect on the outcome. Desire is supernatural in nature. That's why wrong desires are absolutely a waste of time and the waste of a gifting. John 14, are you still there or did you get tired? John 14, verse 13, whatever you ask in my name, that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. I don't know, sometimes I feel like we need to read the Bible for the first time again. Some of these things we're just too familiar with. It may not be you, but I can testify to myself. That's why I've not been able to spend a whole bunch of time outside of the Gospels for the last 15+ plus years. I finally figured it out. It's actually about Jesus. Jesus comes to his disciples and he says, whatever you ask, I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Here's the amazing thing. Jesus wants you to ask. Why? Because he wants his Father glorified. And somehow the Father is glorified when you and I live with fulfilled dreams. It does something to glorify the Father as the Father. We have a holiday at my house, 2 big ones, Christmas and my birthday. As it should be. For my birthday, I buy gifts for my children, their spouses, and my 9 grandchildren. And so about a month or so before my birthday, I overheard a couple of my grandkids talking, and one was asking the other, what are you going to ask Papa for his birthday? And I realized in that moment, man, I'm just right there under Christmas. This is awesome. And as you know what? My family just never forgets my birthday. It's amazing. My son Brian heads up our worship world, and if I were to buy him a custom guitar and bless him with that kind of a gift, I wouldn't want him to leave it under his chair and not open it. Because my delight is in his delight. My pleasure is not in knowing I bought him a nice guitar. My pleasure is in seeing his countenance, his fingers work that guitar. That's where my delight comes from. My delight, when you hide the Easter eggs for your kids, I don't know about you, we hide them out in the front yard. We would never hide them and then go in the house until the kids go out and find them. No, we put, we got a 3-year-old. We put them, on the stair. Right? You put them so they can be found. And we tell the older ones, leave the obvious ones alone. That's for the littlest ones, And the whole fun is they find these eggs, Braden, Brian's youngest child is, how old is Braden? I think is he 5? I think he's 5. We put eggs out there, but we also put these little plastic eggs that are hollow, they come apart. And Benny puts in a lot of cash in those. So he's going through the yard, picking up eggs, going, dropping it, picking up another one. He's in it for the money, You know what? I think that's the coolest thing in the world. It's so fun to find out what their dreams and desires are and then sow into it. That's pretty simple. But if I know how to do that, being an earthly dad. See, Jesus comes to his disciples and he says, let me in on it. I want to let you in on a secret. You can ask for anything. I'll do it. Now, here's the funny part of the story. When James and John said, we tried to go through the city of the Samaritans, they didn't let us through. Jesus, with your permission, we'd like to call down fire and kill the entire city. And we'll give you all the glory, of course. I mean, that's funny. That's a funny story. That entire chapter is funny. I have to admit, now, if I get home from this trip, we were in North Carolina before here, and we'll go home on Thursday. And if I get home, one of my staff members takes me aside and says, Bill, we tried to do an outreach in a neighboring town here, Red Bluff, and the city fathers just met us at the borders of the city, and they said, we don't want you guys here. And so with your permission, we've set up bombs all around the perimeter of the city, and you just give us the nod. We'll just blow the entire place up. At minimum, I'm just not going to let them go on the next outreach. These guys would deeply concern me. This is who Jesus is working with. Jesus comes to that group and gives them a checkbook full of blank checks. He signed the bottom. And he said, here, you'll need them. And so they say, first of all, what kind of experiences had they had with Jesus to think they could actually pull that off? I mean, is that bizarre or what? They could actually, Jesus just gives the nod and they call down fire, kill the whole city. They actually thought they could do it. That's bizarre to me. What kind of meetings did they have? So with your permission, we'd like to call down fire on this entire city. And Jesus rebukes them and says, no. And yet the promise remains. You can ask for anything. He will only say no when saying yes would violate your purpose. Oftentimes, the Lord waits on an answer because he wants your answer to gain interest. And if he says no, a better yes is coming. We don't have time. Forgive me, but I preach the eternal gospel, so I'll probably talk long, but I'll try not to keep you too much longer. But, you know, this whole thing of desire and partnership with the Lord is really a big deal to him. It's much more important than you can imagine because he's wanting his nature to be seen through a people. See, he knows what desire is. He's the inventor of desire. He wants to see people released into the earth, not independent of him, but alive because of him, who illustrate his nature, not through command, but through dreams. See, most of the church right now is waiting for the next command from the Lord. What do we do next? He's waiting for the dream of his people. He's waiting to hear things from you that he's never heard before. He doesn't like hearing what we've been programmed to ask for because he knows it's not us. He wants to hear what we were born for. He wants to hear an accurate, honest representation of why we're on the planet. That we most naturally cry out for. I tell people when we have in our staff at the church, I'll actually stand up on a Sunday and say, I'm not really interested at all. I'll use Banning since he's here. I'm not really interested in Banning's vision until he has mine. But once he has mine, I know that his will be complementary, and I'm all about his. I really believe that's part of what the Lord meant when he said, seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added. In other words, you dial into what's on my heart, and I'll dial into what's on yours. I've been telling people lately, if you have a hard time hearing from the Lord, why don't you talk to him about stuff he likes to talk about? It's really not that complicated. He has some unique interests. Look at chapter 15, verse 7. If you abide in me, my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit. The context here is not the fruit of character, as vital as that is. It's the fruit of answered prayers. Let me try this side over here. I've got some amazing news for you. You're going to love it. By this my Father is glorified. By this, what is this? This is you having dreams fulfilled. You having answers to prayer. The Father is glorified. Yeah. Very spontaneous response. By this my Father, listen, this is not complicated. He says, by this my Father is glorified. He's glorified as Father. When you receive this blank check I'm giving you, write it for something that's impossible. And let's see what happens. That's where he is delighted. That's where his joy is found. Before this thing is over, there must be a clear manifestation of a people that walk in harmony, first of all, with Him, with each other, that accurately reveal His nature through their desires. See, these promises, I've heard them explained away. They just get the life ripped right out of them. Well, it's when we pray for what He tells us to pray for. Listen, I understand that. I understand I don't know what to pray for at times. He'll direct me. But that's not the root of that. That's not the basis of that covenant. That's not the basis. See, God is giving us a promise that makes Him vulnerable. He's modeling risk. He's modeling vulnerability. He's illustrating what it means to be in relationship with someone. It means it's going to cost you. And He's modeling it. You know, we come to the Lord, the Bible says it's a straight and narrow road. And we come to this door, and that door is called Christ Jesus. And the only way to the Father is through Jesus Christ. There is no other way. If there were other ways, then the Father is cruel to allow His Son to be crucified. Absolute waste of a perfect life. So here's the door, Christ Jesus. And the only way you get in is by giving everything. You know, you don't say, I want Jesus in trial sizes. Samples. I'd like a sample size of Jesus. No, He don't come in sample sizes. You know, he's God. He only comes large. And so we come to Jesus, and in so many words, we come to Jesus and we say, not my will, but yours be done. It's that sort of a prayer. It's like we just give everything to you, everything. And we step into life. But what religion does is religion tries to tell you that the straight and narrow road that brought you to Jesus is the straight and narrow road that you walk on with Jesus. And it's just simply not true. The kingdom is a very broad, wonderful place. It's not a tightrope. It's a relationship. It's a friendship. It's a partnership. And here we are trying to walk this tightrope. And Jesus says, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you have them and you shall receive them. And so we pray a religious prayer, which, please forgive me, praying the kinds of prayers we're supposed to pray are legitimate. I don't want to undermine that. But He's looking for authenticity. He's looking for honesty. And we get here, and basically the Lord shows up and He says, Bill, what do you want? I just want your will, God. That's all I want. It's just your will be done. I'm just a sinner barely saved by grace. Just your will. And He says, no. He says, what do you want? Here's a blank check. What would you like? Oh, just thy will be done. Not my will, but yours be done. And He says, no, I really meant it. What do you want? I said, just I want whatever you want. Stop it. Stop it. Who are you? Who are you? Who you are is supposed to be seen in how you dream. And that manifestation of me in you is what the world is needing. Anyone who finds out who God has made them to be will never want to be anyone else. There's only one person qualified to be that, and that's you. For every person, it's significant. For every person, it's rich. For every person, it's a relationship that is absolutely fulfilling from beginning to end. It does not mean no problems, but it does mean an absolute fulfilled life. And He welcomes us in to this place of relationship, this place of favor. And so He gives us these promises. And He said, listen, I want my Father glorified, so you're going to have to dream big. There's this verse out of Hosea 3. Verse 5, it says, in the last days, people will fear God because of His goodness. People will fear God. Now, fear is more than respect. Those who just think it's respect, yeah, read the Bible. People tend to fall on their faces, shaking uncontrolled. So, all right. It says people will fear God because of his goodness. All right, think for a minute. How extreme does that goodness have to be to actually incite fear? Are you guys alive? All right, so at work you get a promotion. All right, that's wonderful. Yay, God, thank you that you gave that promotion. But people will give you credit for that one. See, the only kind of goodness that will bring the fear of God is the kind of stuff that nobody can trace back to you earning it. It's extreme. And before this thing's over, I believe to the nations of the world, there will be a people like you and me that are so highly favored that realize we didn't earn it, we did not deserve it, therefore we must give it away. We must extend the favor to other people. We must bring them into the umbrella of our own divine favor because that's how this thing spreads. I want you to take a look at another passage, and I'll try to speed it up here because I've taken my time. But go to Matthew 6. By that, I was not saying in conclusion. I was just saying it's in sight. I think that's what it is. I can see it. Let me quote you a passage out of Proverbs. It says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire realized is a tree of life. Desire realized is a tree of life. You know, the tree of life is only mentioned in 3 books of the Bible. Genesis, it's what was. Revelation, what will be. Proverbs is what is. And the tree of life was guarded by the angel after Adam and Eve partook of the forbidden fruit. The angel guarded it because if they were to taste of the tree of life after the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then the tree of life would have made their sin condition permanent and unrepairable. Because the tree of life has everything to do with your role and assignment in and throughout eternity. It is eternal in nature. So when the Bible says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire realized is a tree of life, it is saying you now have permission to eat from the tree of life. How? Find out what Jesus said. He just made some outrageous promises. They're extreme. Dream big. Because the Lord always intended for you to be fed from the overflow of the answers to prayer. Does this make sense? That sometimes we're almost taught to not enjoy the moment. You know, you pray for, the favor to purchase the house. You pray to get this job. You pray for your neighbor to be saved. Whatever it might be. We pray, we ask God about this. It comes, but we don't want to get too excited because it might be self-centered. It might be, no, the Father is so excited to release answers to prayer. He's just beside, he does research to figure out what to get you next. I shared this story here before, but it stands out to me. I like to fly fish, and I don't do it a lot right now in the season, but I really enjoy it. And fly fishing, if you've ever done it, can be a pretty pricey sport. If you're going to buy the kind of stuff I want to buy, which is just going to be the best. Jesus didn't have much, but he did have a seamless rope. So they send me these catalogs, and so I get them in the mail. I look, and at the front are the fishing rods, and the fishing rods are $600, $700, $800, $900, sometimes $1,000 or more for a fishing rod. And they ought to catch fish for you. Make coffee when you get up in the morning. But anyway, and I turn the pages, and next to that are the reels. And the reels are hand machined, and they're about the same price. And so I go through the catalog, and I'm looking at all the things that could be the will of God for my life. Then I get further back into the catalog, and that's where you have the stuff that only true, devoted fishermen get to. And that's where you have a leather couch with a trout etched on the back of the cushion. Things that you wouldn't want to live without, basic needs of life. And so there's crystal goblets, with a fish or a fly etched into the side, or the name of a famous river in England or in California or wherever, And then I turn the page, and here's 3 flasks. Apparently fly fishermen like to drink brandy or bourbon or whiskey or something, and they put it in these little curved, like silver, pewter things that you put in your back pocket, so they fit in there perfectly. And I stopped and I looked at them, and I thought, those look really cool. The design was neat. I paused for a moment, looked at it, and I thought, but I don't have any use for it. So I looked at the price, and I thought, I can easily, you go through these thoughts in just a matter of seconds, But I look at the price, I go, but I really don't have any use for it. So I turned the page. Like a week or 2 weeks later, I'm in England, and a lady came up, and Benny and I were both there, and a lady came up and brought my wife a gift. I think it was a shoebox size gift, and so I let her open first. She opens the gift, and it's the kind of stuff you'd buy for a godly lady, I mean, I even forget to this day what all, it was like a picture frame with the name Jesus on it, and the earrings and the cross, and, this stuff that's just obviously, respectful of her anointing and her gift. I opened mine, and it was a flask. Now, on the outside, I'm saying, oh, well, that's cool. Thank you so much. On the inside, I'm going, you've got to be kidding. I paused for 3 seconds at a page, showed interest. You took notice, and then you got it for me, knowing I would never use it. What kind of father is this? I'm serious. This is amazing to me. What kind of father is this? I tell you what he's not. He's been defined as the one who's interested in your needs and not your wants. He's not the administrator of an orphanage, making sure you get 3 meals a day and a cot to sleep on. He's not the director of an orphanage. He's a father that takes delight in the personal lives of his kids. Because desire realized is a tree of life. Is it possible that you living a fulfilled life with dreams fulfilled, I don't mean absent of problems again, but I mean dreams fulfilled, is it possible that you then become the tree of life to your neighborhood, to the people you work with? That you become the people that they draw from for their own personal fulfillment? All right, now I'll try to go fast. Matthew 6, verse 7. When you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do. They think they will be heard for their many words. Therefore, do not be like them, for the Father knows the things you have need of before you ask. All right, verse 7 again. When you pray, don't use vain repetition as the heathen do. What is he saying? He's saying, listen, the Father knows what you have need of. That doesn't mean we're not supposed to ask, because the very following verses introduces to us the prayer that we call the Lord's Prayer. It's not actually the Lord's Prayer, because in it he confesses sin and he had no sin. It's the disciples' prayer. But in his prayer, he has us pray, give us this day our daily bread. So we're supposed to pray for our needs. But what he's saying here, he says, don't use vain repetition. Don't pray the same prayer over and over and over and over and over and over again, thinking that you're going to be heard because you said it 1,000 times. Why? Because he's a father. And to request what you need is vital because it puts you into the mind of Christ. But to repeat prayers for what he's already promised over and over and over again is to work against the nature, the revelation of him being a father. Wow. Randy Clark made a statement here recently that really rocked my world. He said, for us to beg for God to heal someone is for us to assume we have more mercy than he does. He's already unveiled his will. The real issue is learning how to step into administrating and releasing the manifestation of his will in the earth. That's exactly what Jesus did. There was no sweat or labor involved. He would pray all night. He would do various things to make sure he was in tune. But the miracle itself was the outflow of his relationship with the Father. You and I have been invited into this grand life. Go to chapter 7. This will be the last verse. I'm almost promising. Verse 7, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. We'll read more in a moment. Ask, knock, seek. Each of those words, I'm sure that many of you know, have been taught or studied this on your own. They're words that mean to ask, but then continue asking. It's not a one-time ask. It's knock, but just keep on. Don't stop knocking till the door opens. When you seek, don't stop seeking until you find what you're seeking for. Now, I don't know if that looks like an apparent contradiction to you, but it does to me. Chapter 6, don't ask over and over. Chapter 7, you better ask over and over. Seems to be a slight difference between the two. Why? I'd like to suggest to you that chapter 6 is dealing with your needs. Chapter 7 is dealing with your dreams. Let's look at it. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek, you will find. Knock, it will be open to you. Everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. To him who knocks, it will be opened. What man is there among you? If his son asks for bread, that's obviously a need, we'll give him a stone. If he asks for a fish, we'll give him a serpent. If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask? He moves it from need into the realm of dreams, desires, the good things that we pursue. I'm not saying that anything you and I could come up with, the mansion on the hill and building our own empire, I don't like that form of Christianity. I don't like the thought that what you own, the more you own, reveals your spirituality. That's just horrible. It's a horrible translation of something that is really, really rich. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to destroy the promise because some have misapplied it. Because something has to happen in the earth that I don't think, I've not been able to find it in history. It's never happened before. It's never been revealed before. And that is where the people of God in harmony start dreaming in a way that draws God into a situation. Where people individually, over and over again, households, families, come into personal fulfillment that is just ridiculous. It is tree of life concept. It's the tree of life idea. That you and I become a fruitful people from which others can draw life. I had a prophet friend tell me years ago, in fact, I remember sharing this here because we had discussed it some afterwards, this wonderful, wonderful friend, wonderful prophet of God. He came to me once and he said, Bill, he said, if you know of a church that you think I ought to go to, tell me and I'll go there. And what he was saying, in so many words, he was saying, Bill, you have favor in my eyes, and if there's someone who has favor in your eyes, I'll extend to them the same favor I've shown to you. Does that make sense? You make that connection? All right. Do you have favor with him? Do you have favor with God? I mean, seriously. Now, he loves everyone the same, but not everyone has the same measure of favor. Favor is a very, very powerful thing. So the Lord has given everybody in this room a measure of favor. Because God has favor on you, he's looking to see who you'll have favor on, because then he'll have favor on them. Ephesians 4:29, we're not reading it, so it's not me adding more scriptures to what I was going to say. So this is actually, this is legal, right? I could say, I heard somewhere, or I read somewhere. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification, according to the need of the moment, that it might give grace to those who hear. Here it is. Don't say stupid stuff. Say encouraging things. Try to recognize the moment you're in. Why? Because you will impart grace. What is grace? Grace is divine favor. Are you thinking? That means the waiter at the restaurant that you decide to encourage, you are actually creating the avenue by which he can experience divine favor. We are distributors of grace. We are stewards of divine grace. And there are people that are longing for the moment of even knowing that God knows their name. I'll end with this. I was in Norway, and a friend of mine, prophet friend of mine, he texts me fairly often with the most random information. He says, prophets can get away with it, you know, like he told me, he said, you're going to meet a lady by such and such a name. She's dying, you'll pray for her and she'll be healed. That's cool. He's in the U.S., I'm in Norway. I look at the name, I don't recognize the name. I'm leaving town that day, so this one's going to have to happen fast. So I go to my host, I say, you know anyone by that name? I show him my iPhone, and I say, you know anyone by that name? He says, yeah. He says, we're having lunch with them later today. I went, was she dying? He goes, yeah, she was at the hospital every week getting some sort of treatment, and yeah, she is. And he says, oh, look, he even spelled her name right. Her mother doesn't spell her name right. And it's a real offense to her. The Lord knew her name. All I had to do was show her that the Lord knew her name. What did that do to her faith? Prayed for her very simply. She was healed. When I got together with my prophet friend, I told him, that was a lucky guess. You know. You can't exaggerate his goodness. It's not possible. You can't exaggerate it. You can't exaggerate his kindness, his mercy. You can't exaggerate these things. You can't exaggerate how wonderful and powerful he is as a father. You can't embellish it. You can't add to it. You can distort it, but you can't add to it. You can't make it better than what it is. You can twist it, but you cannot make it better than what it is. The cry of every person's heart in this room, some of you had very abusive upbringing. The whole concept of father is a very painful thing for you. And the Lord's going to heal that, because that's just who he is. There's probably high odds that the woman caught in adultery had some father issues, but it got touched that day. But there's people all around you in this city. They're doing all kinds of crazy things. And it's just because they don't know who their father is. It's not complicated. It's very simple, but it is profound, and it is life-changing. I want you to stand because we're going to pray together. And let's just see what else the Lord wants to do tonight. But I want you to stand with me, and let's just pray about this one thing first. Tomorrow night, we're going to pray for folks here in a moment, but just to let you know, tomorrow night, I actually want to take a bulk of my time for us just to pray for the sick. I believe that tomorrow night will be an extraordinary miracle night. We've been having so many things healed, metal rods and screws and plates and things of that nature just disappearing from people's bodies. Original parts replaced, creative miracles, things that were destroyed and broken, God just making them new, and head trauma, all kinds of stuff. So we're going to pray, and I believe we're going to see some stuff tonight. But tomorrow night, I really want to focus a good part of the evening on that. I really have high expectations of what the Lord wants to deposit here. But this is really what I came here for, was this father thing. Because the city around you is crying out in all the wrong places for this one simple truth. They don't know what he's like. We were just in North Carolina having lunch, and there was two people sitting behind us, behind my wife, that we were there for an hour. They complained for 1 solid hour. All they did was complain. Not about the restaurant, not about the food. They were just about life in general. Politicians, whoever. They were from another country, so they just got everyone. They got, I think, everyone in between our two countries. They were just complaining for 1 hour. We sat there, it wasn't eavesdropping. They were talking loud enough for everyone to enjoy their. So I told Ben, I said, you know what, I'm going to buy their lunch. They had a big old bottle of wine too, so that jacked the price a bit. But, so I said to the waitress, I said, come here. So I signed my bill. I said, can you give me their bill? She said, yeah. I said, I want to buy their lunch. She said, how come? She said, I said, they've been complaining ever since we got in here. She said, about the service, about the food? I said, no, just about life in general. She goes, oh, okay. So she went and got the bill. She brought it back. She says, what do I tell them? Oh, she said, do you know them? I said, no, I've never seen them before. She said, what do I tell them? I go, God is good, and I want more people to know. It's all the stupid stuff is because they don't know that. The greatest vacuum in the consciousness of humanity is the goodness of God. I would be happy if 100 people in this room became infected with the conviction of God's goodness. I don't mean this fake stuff that God just overlooks all this stupid stuff that's done in his name. I don't mean that. I'm talking about the goodness of God. The grace of God doesn't overlook sin. It empowers us for righteousness. It's an enabling power. It's an enabling presence. I'd be thrilled if 100 people got infected with the dream of impacting this world with an understanding of what he's like. People, by and large, don't have a problem with Jesus. They have a problem with us. That's changing. I'm thankful. Not you. When I say us, I mean all them other Christians. Yeah. All them other guys. All right, let's take a couple minutes to pray, and then let's just see what else he wants to do. Pray for your own heart. Pray Pray for your own understanding of the Father. Some of you have got some real hurdles to get over, but He will meet you more than halfway and show you what a father's like. If you were beat up as a child and all the horrible things that happened, we heard part of it tonight, trafficking. Some could have had that in your past, and you don't need to confess anything here. Public, that's not important, but what it is important is you say, God, this one's tough, but I can tell it's true, so I want to know what you're like as a father. And you just take your biggest need at the moment. Some of you already understand this. You're in. So what I want you to pray for is that God would actually enable you with the divine grace to make Father known to this world. Father, because that's the cry of every heart. So you just pray out loud. Keep the quiet prayers for Starbucks right now. Just pray over yourself. To where you can hear yourself pray. I want you to pray over yourself, and we'll pray for each other in a moment. Yeah. Just pray. Just pray. Just however you respond to what you've heard, just pray regarding that. Father, we pray for the healing of hearts with this father issue, that you'd give great courage to those that were abused. Bring people into wholeness. Put a hand on somebody's shoulder. I want you to pray that they get it. I want you to pray that they get it. Just pray that this revelation of the Father would be so clear that we would have father-daughter moments, we'd have father-son moments that change people's lives. Thank you, Lord God. Just continue to pray for them. Pray scary prayers, would you? Pray the extreme ones. Their dreams have to be in the realm of the impossible. It's vital. It's vital that we dream the impossible things. Yeah, make the Father manifest. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Okay, we're going to pray one more thing together. Just give me your attention for a moment. In John 20, Jesus said, "As the Father sent me, I send you." That basically is telling us the assignment He came with to reveal the Father is now our assignment. As the Father sent me. The primary purpose of His coming was to reveal the Father. The Father is revealed and glorified through His people having desires and having them fulfilled. I mean, who would have thought of this? I'm a 5th generation pastor on my dad's side of the family, 4th on my mom's. And it's a wonderful heritage. I'm so thankful. But I need to let you in on a little secret. My parents never once talked to me about ministry. They were just hoping I would get to heaven. Their whole dream for me was, oh God, help him to make it. There's something about the Lord that is supposed to be revealed through you looking at a flask. See, when I pray for cancer, I expect it to be healed. But why would He give me a flask I won't use? It shows me more about His nature It reveals more to me about what he's like. I was sitting by the lake one day and I was throwing little rocks. I went there to read and pray, and I was throwing little rocks in the water, and these little perch would get up and eat the rock and then spit it out. And I was tormenting them. Just as what you do when you're the superior creation. You know, so that's bad, isn't it? So I just had this thought cross my mind. I wonder if they would eat a bee, because bees have stingers. As soon as I thought it, a bee comes flying from my right to my left, stops in front of me, stops flying, drops into the water, and the fish comes up and eats him. You got to be kidding. He pays attention to that stuff too? I'm telling you, he wants people to know what he's like. But we got to get it first. So we're going to take a few minutes for this. I'm going to ask you to pray. Pray for somebody around you. You know what? I don't care if you cross the aisle and just start laying hands on people. What I want you to pray, though, is I want you to pray, God, awaken the capacity for the dream. Because religion has killed it in so many people. A lot of you started a dream, disappointment just really messed you up, so you've just been trying to make it. No, God doesn't want to just have you make it. He wants you to have a full impact on the world around you. So if you would, just, you've been here a long time, but you came knowing that. Right, yeah, it's your own fault. You came, Banning's dad years ago says we need to change the name of Bethel. We're going to change the name to Denny's. Always open. It's just, meetings never end. So, all right. So put a hand on someone next to you and just begin to pray. I want you to pray, God, release the capacity to dream. Increase the capacity for the dream. Restore, Lord, what religion has destroyed. Restore what well-meaning people have destroyed. Awaken the capacity for dreams. Awaken the capacity for the unreasonable. Yes. Let impossibilities bow. Bow their knee to the name Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Now just ask the Lord to double it. Just double it. Just unreasonable increase. Unreasonable increase. Not measured, projected increase. Unreasonable increase, Lord. Extreme increase, Lord. Extreme increase, Lord. Extreme increase, Lord. Wonderful Jesus. Wonderful Lord. Okay, go ahead and wrap it up. And Thanks, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I believe that, how many pastors do we have here? How many pastors? Okay, look around the room. I feel like the Lord is going to use many of you pastors, your spouses, the staff people that are here, the evangelists, the prophets, the missionaries, etc., as architects for building a dream culture. It's really important. You have access to something here in the Spirit. Show after show after show, good and bad, down on the Strip, are there because of imagination. There is a liberty and a freedom, an approval, if you will, for creativity, for dreaming, for thinking outside the box. People are making extraordinary amounts of money because they have chosen to think outside the box. And I'm not talking about shows, although it could involve that. I'm talking about the church thinking free again. Thinking because we're free. The ability to dream outside of just what's expected. Don't be surprised if the Lord drops a dream in you that seems to be too natural to be spiritually important. Because He has a habit of doing that. He has a habit of just working outside of how we expect, because He knows that I need a flask that I can't use. He knows it, because He knows there's something about His nature that I'm not going to get by getting what I can use. There's something that He wants to reveal to me I can't get any other way. And this freedom, this liberty to think and to dream and to build and to realize, you know what, we're actually building something for the transformation of a city, the transformation of a nation. This is what we're doing. In this room is filled with architects of culture. And I want to go after this thing tomorrow. Hopefully be able to go after this in the morning. But this culture thing is really, really a big deal. So I want to pray for you. Then we're going to pray for a few folks, and we'll go home. All right. Father, I ask that you would release an unusual grace, an unusual anointing. In fact, I'm asking a summons, like an invitation to a party, that you'd release a summons to every individual to a lifestyle of fulfilled dreams that was never thought to even be possible. That in this room would be those who shape culture, those who define things define the understanding of God for a city. That grace would be given to people in this room, to churches. And that you would be revealed for who you are so profoundly through a people that work in perfect harmony with you. We've already said yes to the big picture. Now help us to walk it out. I pray that dreams would come in the night, but they'd also come in the day. I pray especially during worship, pay attention to your desires when you worship, folks. I pray especially during worship that there would be a heightened sense of purpose that even goes outside of the worship expression. And I pray this, that you would be exalted. In Jesus' mighty, mighty name, amen. Let's give an offering of thanks to God. We bless you. Yeah, we do. Thank you, Lord. Wonderful Lord. Wonderful Lord. Now, I realize the ability to stay very long is hard at this point because I talk so long. So I will be brief tomorrow night. But I do want us to pray for a few things. The Lord wants to set people free from migraines. So I'm going to call out several things right now. Don't be slow. Just put your hand up if that's you. Migraines, He's breaking off, especially those who have had it for 10, 20, 30 years, a cycle of migraines. The thing gets broken tonight. There's arthritis specifically. There's degenerative condition, especially in the neck area. Degenerative conditions, and the Lord is not just going to remove pain. He's not a painkiller. He's a creative God who restores what's broken. And so we're going to see the Lord touch people who have that issue. There's cancer in the room. And I hate cancer. I believe that we're supposed to look for the most impossible cases and run after them. In the same way that David ran at Goliath, we're to find our Goliath, which I believe cancer is the Goliath of at least the American church, and we're to run at the thing with a rock that God has given us. And anyone with cancer in the room, put your hand up, because we're gonna pray for you. Here, just put your hand up high right over here, over there. All right, good. All right, back over here. All right, good. Good. Well, we're going to see a real breakthrough, a real change. You came tonight hoping for a miracle, and miracles do not take hours of prayer. I mean, that's, I'm fine with that, but he's actually fairly quick. So the migraines, put your hands up if that's you. There's somebody here who has got some sort of there's damage done in the sinus area. I don't know if it's a cancer in there, if it's a fungus, there's something going on inside the sinus where you actually need a miracle, because it's not something that they can fix. Who is that? Is that you right here? All right. We had a situation in Dallas a few years ago where a guy had eaten bad meat. Worms went to his brain, and they established nests all around his brain. They were able to treat him and kill the worms, but the nest had crystallized, and he was dying. He was so heavily drugged, they just walked him like a zombie into the room, received prayer. I felt this thing lift off of him, because it was a spirit, which I didn't know when we started. But it lifted off him, and I asked him, and in his drugged state, I said, "Did you feel that thing leave?" And he nodded his head. 3 days later, it's completely normal. So I feel like there's things like this that the Lord wants to completely heal right now. So, all right. Anything there's also someone who has broken the right ankle, did not heal correctly. The Lord is going to heal that. There are people here. Is that you back over here? All right. This will be fun, because you might want to just check it right now. Check the ankle right now. Yeah, just check it. Stomp on the thing. Do so. Yeah. How is it? How is it? How's the ankle? How is yours? Yeah. Is it all good? What did he say? It's all good. All good's good. All good's really good. All right. So all of you with, there's also somebody that has an injury. I don't understand this one. It has to do with the entire right leg. I don't know if there's a rod in there. I don't know if there's nerve damage. It kind of feels like there may be like nerve damage or weakness there from past injury. It's not developed as it should be. It's not necessarily painful, but it's in a weakened state, and it's that way constantly. Who is that? Because the Lord is going to restore that right over here. All right, we got 3 right up there. I always get encouraged when I see the same condition together like that, because it's an unusual coincidence, and that's part of the language of the Spirit. So we got more over here. All right, right here. All right, if I don't see you, you still have permission to get healed. All right? All right, migraines, arthritis, especially the issue with the neck, all the things I just called out. Everybody raise your hand that has it. All right? Put your hand up high. All right? Wow, look at that. There's going to be a bunch of stuff happening. Hold on. Tailbone, broken tailbone. Anybody here broken a tailbone that did not heal correctly? Wave your hand at me. Is that right here? Oh, that's awesome. Right, okay. Let me ask this. Is there any lady here that broke the tailbone in giving delivery to your child? Where, right here? Is that right? Oh, this is awesome. Right back over here? All right. I'm telling you, Jesus is restoring that, because he is vindicating what was stolen from you in childbirth. Sit down now. Check it out. Just both of you just sit down. Just do. I won't have you do what I've had others do. I've had them sit down hard. One lady actually jumped up in the air, landed on her butt in the chair, which could have broken the tailbone. She was completely healed. I'm not going to have anyone lay hands on the tailbone, so you can rest, be comfortable. But the Lord's going to heal you tonight. All right, Lord's going to heal. Put your hands up again. If you raise it for anything I called out. All right. All right, now look around you. Those of you without your hands up, guess what? You're on the ministry team. Okay, now listen carefully. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to someone with their hand up. I don't just want husbands and wives. The reason, you've already prayed for them. I want you to have fresh meat. Something you don't know anything about, all right? But here's what I want you to do. Hold your hand up high until somebody comes to you. Those of you that are going to them, listen to me. Do not pray yet. Wait till I give you instructions. All right? Go to someone with their hand up. Just go to them. Don't start praying yet, as tempting as it is. All right, put your hand down as soon as somebody comes to you. Okay, look around the room. If you're about to pray for somebody that still has their hand up, would you pull it down for them? All right, now wave your hand at me if we missed you, because I don't see any hands up. Right here. All right, somebody's with you there. All right, wave it at me. All right, here's, right over here. We need somebody, this gentleman, put your hand up again. I need somebody right up, halfway up the aisle there. Excellent, okay, perfect, got it. Here's all I need you to do. It's very simple. He's the healer. He does the healing. What I want you to do is you got to find out what's wrong. Those of you that need the miracle, they don't need your history. They just need a target. Okay, keep it as brief as you can, because you could depress them. That wouldn't be good. Just give them a target. Number one. Number two, lay hands on them. Put your hand on their shoulder. If they have a problem, for example, in that part of their neck, lay your hands there. If it's a tailbone, put your hand on their neck. Just ask the anointing to travel, all right? And as you pray, one more thing. As you pray, I want you to rebuke the affliction. I want you to command it out of their body. Holy Spirit, I ask that you'd come with power now. We break now the cycle of migraines. I break that assignment of hell in the name of Jesus. Lord, we call for a creative miracle, that you'd restore the vertebrae in the neck that has been devoured and destroyed. Let a creative miracle come now in the mighty name of Jesus. Cancer, I rebuke you in Jesus' name. All cancer, dissolve. Dissolve in Jesus' mighty name. Jesus' mighty name. Now, there's some people that you're praying for that had their problem in an accident. I want you to rebuke trauma. Literally, I want you to rebuke the spirit of trauma. Just call it by name. I've watched this for years. We break the spirit of trauma right now in Jesus' name. Jesus' name. Okay, you got about 30 more seconds. But don't leave the person you're praying for. No hit and run. Okay. Shh, you did good. Just give me your attention for a moment. Don't leave the person you prayed for, but do stop praying. No. Sometimes we actually go pray past the miracle. It is true. I'm serious, like driving past a restaurant. Everyone that just received prayer, I want you to try to do something. Put faith into some sort of an action to find out what God just did. Even if you know it has to be tested with a blood test or whatever. That's fine. Follow up with a blood test. But right now, I want every person to take some sort of action to find out what the Lord has done. And everyone that's just discovered Jesus healed your body, I want you to wave both hands over your head for about 15 seconds. And the people who did the praying, look at this, they're already raising their hand. That's right. The people who did the praying, just cheer before the Lord. Come on. Wow. All right. All right. We're almost through, but there's still some folks that need breakthrough. Jesus ministered to a blind man twice. before he could see clearly. We owe it to people. We owe it to them to minister to them at least twice. That's why I tell people, don't just pray and then go. We used to just pray in tongues and then turn and walk away because I knew they weren't healed, but I didn't want to find out. So we just, So if the person you prayed for is healed, don't pray again because you might mess them up. If they have something else to pray for, that's fine. Otherwise, you might say to them, hey, pray for me because I need a miracle in my life as well, all right? Turn and pray one more time, then we'll wrap it up. You've got about another minute or so to pray. If the person you prayed for is not 100%, pray again. Many, many, many people are healed the second time. Bless the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, you got about 30 more seconds, maybe 20. All right, you did good. Go ahead and stop the prayer. You guys know what to do. Check yourself out. Try to move in a way you couldn't move. If there was a tumor and you could feel it, probe to see if you can feel it. And everyone that just got healed the second time we prayed, wave both hands over your head so that we can see who you are. We got one down here. We got back over here. Just wait. Yeah, wave your hands again. All right. Let's have everyone stand. I'll have Pastor Paul come back on up and he can wrap it up. Here's what I want to do. Shh. There we go. The hour's late, so I'm not going to follow up like I like to. Tomorrow night, you will hear testimonies of extraordinary miracles that happen. You just will hear them. I do not remember the last time. It's been years and years and years when there was no extraordinary miracles. It will happen again tomorrow night. It's happened tonight, but we're not going to take time for the testimonies. I would encourage you to write it out, give it to the pastor, do something. But everyone that just got healed tonight, shh. Everyone that got healed tonight, you tested yourself. You're not just claiming it. I believe in claiming, but don't do it now. Everyone that examined yourself and Jesus healed your body, I want you to wave both hands over your head. Wave them high. Wave them high. Look around the room. Look around the room. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, wow, wow.